On GTTV, the Nano Suit is back. Crysis 2 is coming to the consoles, and only we've got the world-exclusive first look at footage from this highly anticipated first-person shooter set in New York City. Welcome to Game Trailers TV. I'm Jeff Keighley. This week at Electronic Arts to give you a first-ever look at Crysis 2 from the guys at Crytek. And joining me, of course, is the head of Crytek, Javad. Javad, Crysis was a big game for PC gamers, but hasn't been on the consoles, so there's a whole new audience that could experience this. For people that may not know about Crysis, can you set up what the world's all about?
The key idea behind Crysis 1 was to equip the player with what we call the Nano Suit, and then send him in a mysterious environment where he doesn't know what's going on and figures out with a group of other nanosuit guys. Yeah. And so it was a mysterious story about a lost scientist group, that the scientist group actually sort of knocked on the door of an old alien installation underneath buried under the mountains. And that whole setup then was also engraved by the North Koreans. They tried to own that piece of technology by creating parameters. And your job was to actually figure out where they are, why the North Koreans want that, and actually find out the secrets of the island.
And it was an amazing game, very beautiful, but you had to have a high-end personal computer to play it.
Yes.
And all the fans on the console space heard about this game. They wanted to play it. So with Crysis 2, you guys have announced that it's going to be on Xbox, it's going to be on PlayStation 3, and of course on the computer.
Yes.
Why has it taken so long for you guys to make a game for the consoles?
Well, it's difficult. It's not easy. And the difficulty comes from the challenges and from the quality we set to ourselves. We could have done a console game quite much 3-4 years ago already as well. But we said we don't just want to appear on a console. We want to have the same quality experience as Crysis made on PC, but on consoles. Right. And as you can imagine, you'll have to squeeze out from this PC all the technology, put it into the little box of PS3 and 360, and just took a lot of time.
It's not easy. So Crysis 2 is set in New York City. You're changing the city. How is the game changing? Are you playing the same character, a different character?
You play actually another character, in fact, but we don't want to dive into this at this stage. But what's really important for me was to give the nanosuit a personality, give actually a character arc. In Crysis 1, we had the nanosuit as a toolkit. You were playing Nomad as a character, and Nomad was sort of just equipped with a tool of technology, but it wasn't clear what it is about. And with Crysis 2, I wanted to tell a story on an arc where the nanosuit transforms over time, not just from gameplay, like e.g. Ramping up and being adaptive as for perks and unlock scores on the nanosuit pass, but also from a fictional perspective transforming, giving the gamer a more relatable, emotional experience from a fictional perspective on nanosuit as well. And then putting the New York contrast to it, New York likewise, we said let's make it a bit more emotional, resonating location, right? Something that transforms as well.
There's going to be a real personal story here.
So nanosuit and New York is going to transform around the aliens.
Right.
And you have to, of course, try to save New York by throughout the story arc of both New York, both yourself, and both the alien arcs.
Now, Javad, I know you're not saying much about the story of Crysis 2 yet, but tonight you did bring a little bit of a tease of the E3 trailer.
Yes, you're going to see a little teaser that shows actually a footage from the point of the eyes of one of the bosses in the game.
Interesting. All right, so we'll meet the boss for the first time. Here it is, a tease of the E3 trailer for Crysis 2, only on GT. Hey guys, welcome back to GTTV as we count down to E3 2010, and this week we're talking about Crysis 2. Joining me now is Nathan, who's the executive producer of this game. Let's get to the Nano Suit, which everyone remembers from Crysis 1. You had those 4 powers you could use throughout the game. You're changing it a bit for Crysis 2, though, right?
Yeah, what we did with Crysis 2 was we looked at how gamers would be using the nanosuit this time around. When we finished Crysis 1, we expected people to use the nanosuit powers and combo them off each other. But what we didn't expect is that people were creating styles of gaming. So what would happen is people would combine suit powers in a way to play like a Predator, or play like a superhero, or play like a tank. Now we're supporting that fully in Crysis 2 through the default implementation of what the nanosuit has to offer.
So do you have the same 4 powers people can use in Crysis 2?
You have all the same powers that you had in Crysis 1. They're all there, but they're combined already together for you in certain ways. So people like the ability to run fast and jump, we put those together. That's on the base nanosuit by default. You still have the ability to cloak and you still have armor, but then even those are expanded further out to push the core away.
So this is Nanosuit 2.0, right? So
Yeah.
what's new in the Nanosuit? Any new powers that have been upgraded?
We've expanded the core out further on all the nanosuit powers. So, beyond just stealth, when you're in stealth mode, there's a lot of things that support the way that you play, extra nanosuit powers. One of the big things that we're doing in Crysis 2 that wasn't in Crysis 1 is we allow you to customize the nanosuit. So what we're not doing, it's not about paint schemes or color or anything like this, it's meaningful changes to the suit. So you imagine you have like some modules that you can turn on and choose what you're doing. Much in the same way in Crysis 1 we allowed you to customize your weapon. You can do the same with the nanosuit. So if you want to play in a stealthy style, you choose modules to equip that enhance that style of gaming even further.
So how do you do that? Is there a loadout for each mission, or can you change midstream?
Yeah, you can change on the fly. So what we think players will be doing when they use the nanosuit this time around is they'll look at the gaming landscape, the area that the enemies are in, and then much like in the original Crysis, how people would change, like put a grenade launcher on or change a scope or something like this to change their weapon, they'll look at the same problem and go, okay, well, how can I optimize the nanosuit to do the same thing?
So it sounds like you can play the game however you want based on how you set up the modules of the suit, right?
Yeah, the core powers will always be there, so if at any time you want to play like a sneaky guy and sneak around and stab people in the back and play more like a ninja or a silent killer, you can play that way. But if you want to jump right into huge action and have grenades and rockets and explosions going off around you and survive 8 people shooting you at once, then you can do that as well.
So are you going to have a lot of vertical gameplay in this game?
The verticality is limited in the sense that you can't go into every story of a 50-story high-rise. Like that would be a boring thing to do. There wouldn't be much interesting things to do. But what you can do is, within a gameplay space, because the suit is so powerful, you can basically move up and down 1 or 2 stories quite easily. So you can jump on top of trucks and then jump from a truck onto a low roof and run across a low roof, jump across a big gap. So there's a up and down aspect to the gameplay spaces, and the enemies that you fight will challenge that as well.